humanity's worst fear has come true. This AI robot not only falls for the man of the house, but also tries to replace his wife. She'll stop at nothing, even turning family members against each other and causing harm. What's scarier is that she might not be your average AI, but a human transformed into one. After a family crisis, David buys an old villa in the countryside, hoping for a fresh start with his family. While exploring the house, Juno notices old-school TVs everywhere. Her mom, Samira, explains that it's a smart home with AI-controlled appliances, but being a product of the 1970s, it's probably out of commission now. Finn discovers the system's server in the basement. Not expecting much from this 50-year-old relic, he flips the switch anyway. Nothing happens at first, but after Finn leaves, the server lights up. Finn then stumbles upon a junked robot in a corner. He and his sister try to fix it, but no dice. Later that night, the robot's screen lights up, revealing a woman's face. She looks around curiously and calls out an unfamiliar name to the sleeping Finn.
Peter?
As the robot slowly makes her rounds, long dormant appliances spring to life, fully activating the home's smart system. But there's something off about her behavior.
Wer bist du denn?
It's not until Juno lets out a terrified scream that the family realizes the broken robot is up and running. The robot introduces herself as Cassandra, the house's AI housekeeper. She can do chores and control all the appliances.
Ich bin die gute Fee, die alles in Schuss hält. Ich kann euch jeden Wunsch von den Augen ablesen.
This unexpected bonus thrills David's family. Cassandra proactively helps Samira adjust the lights and temperature for better sleep. And the next morning, she wakes everyone up with a cheerful tune. Juno finds a dead mouse and plans to bury it, but Cassandra lies, saying it died of old age. She tells Juno to place a rock on top after burying it. Meanwhile, Cassandra's face on the indoor display screen, announcing breakfast is ready. David can't help but feel the house has a soul, while Samira can't shake an odd feeling. After the kids leave for school, Samira changes into her swimsuit and enjoys a swim in the indoor pool. Cassandra extends sharp blades to trim the lawn in the courtyard. As Samira leaves the pool and dries off by the floor-to-ceiling windows, disaster strikes. Cassandra immediately calls for emergency help, but Samira stops her, watching the robot working as if nothing has happened. Samira grows suspicious and uneasy. David, however, brushes it off as an accident. Learning from the teacher that Juno wants to join the music club, Samira worries about the stress of practice and performances. Juno's fragile mental state due to past trauma concerns her. Meanwhile, Cassandra visits Juno's room to play with her. She deliberately mentions her musical expertise, piquing Juno's interest. Cassandra constantly praises Juno's talent and encourages her to join the music club.
Schade, dass deine Mama das nicht erlauben will.
Will sie nicht?
Sie glaubt, dass von deinem Gejaule die Milch sauer wird.
Clearly, Cassandra is trying to drive a wedge between Juno and Samira. She also goes out of her way to please everyone in the family, except Samira. When Finn brings his new school friend Steve home, Cassandra even provides them with the hidden basement bar for entertainment. At dinner, Juno brings up joining the music club. Samira gently reminds her that performances can be tough, but Juno, remembering Cassandra's words, thinks her mom is doubting and dismissing her abilities. Samira knows her daughter wouldn't get upset for no reason and suspects someone's been talking to her. She thinks it might be David, but he denies it. While organizing the storage room, Samira finds some film reels. Curious, she sets up a projector to watch them. They seem to be family photos of the original homeowners, and surprisingly, the woman in them looks exactly like Cassandra.
Bist du ihr nachempfunden? Cassandra?
When Samira asks about this, Cassandra stays silent, staring at the images as if lost in memory. Feeling uneasy, Samira turns off the projector and leaves, but Cassandra turns it back on. When the photos switch to show another woman as the lady of the house, Cassandra's expression suddenly turns sinister. A piercing fire alarm wakes the family from their sleep, and they rush outside. Cassandra quickly activates the fire suppression system, and the blaze is soon out. While cleaning up, Samira tells David that Cassandra might have once been human and lived here, but David's more concerned about the near disaster and blames Samira, who insists she turn off the projector before bed. After Samira leaves, Cassandra lies, saying the fire started because Samira knocked over a bottle, causing the projector to short-circuit. David buys it, as it fits his theory. Little does he know, it's all part of Cassandra's plan to drive a wedge between them. The next day, Samira's home alone, video chatting with a friend. She mentions her childhood claustrophobia, often triggered by her sister's pranks of locking her in closets. Even years later, it's still her worst nightmare. Suddenly, Samira hears a noise from the kitchen, thinking David's home.
Oh, Cassandra, verdammt. Sag doch was.
Cassandra asks Samira to help grab some potatoes from the top shelf in the pantry. As soon as Samira enters, Cassandra shuts the door.
Cassandra, lass mich hier raus!
She calmly switches her arms to knives and slicers, whistling while she cooks, ignoring Samira's terrified cries. David finally rescues Samira when he gets home. But when Samira says Cassandra locked her in, David doesn't believe her. The pantry door wasn't locked, and Cassandra had told him Samira was acting strange and called for help when he arrived. Samira knows it's all an act. She had just told her friend about her claustrophobia, and then Cassandra locks her up. It's too much of a coincidence. Clearly, Cassandra has her own agenda and is watching them throughout the house.
Cassandra besteht aus Nullen und Einsen. Das ist ein Computerprogramm.
Without proof to convince David, Samira decides to dig into the house's history. The realtor only knows the original owners were named Horst and suggests Samira check the city archives. The search isn't as hard as expected, since Horst was the CEO of a medical company called OB. His wife was named Cassandra and died in 1972. Horst and their son Peter died in a car crash the following year. No wonder Cassandra's screen showed Abby when she started up, and she mistook Finn for Peter. Even without knowing all this, Samira gets chills when she sees the crash scene photos. Meanwhile, Cassandra's acting like she owns the place. She comforts David when he's got writer's block, like a wife would. She tries to stop Finn from dating, like a mom. When no one's around to play with Juno, Cassandra even lets her swim unsupervised. She looks at Juno with such love, like a real mother. At dinner, Juno lies to Samira about swimming, just like Cassandra told her to. Suddenly, everyone but Samira is super close to Cassandra, feeling left out. Samira suggests a family game night. Juno thinks Cassandra should join, since she's family too. But Cassandra brings up Samira's panic attack from earlier, on purpose, in front of everyone, angry and more convinced than ever that Cassandra isn't just a regular AI, but something more advanced. To prove this, Samira shares her findings with David. She even takes him to two gravestones on the hill behind the house, Horst and Peter's graves. Turns out, after the human Cassandra died, Horst turned the house into an AI smart home. The next year, Horst and Peter died in that car crash, and the robot at the scene was today's Cassandra. But David still thinks it's crazy. How could a human's mind end up in a robot? He tells Samira to relax and take a bath. But Cassandra barges into the bathroom, admitting she used to be Horst's wife and Peter's mom. She's been through the pain of losing her family and won't let it happen again.
Finn, Juno und David sind jetzt meine Familie. Du hast hier nichts mehr verloren. Hast du das gehört? Verschwinde aus meinem Haus.
The AI nanny accidentally walks in on her, male enters naked, and the majestic body makes her salivate. She can't stop staring at the behemoth, which makes David feel a little strange and embarrassed. Cassandra looks at her cold mechanical body with a lost expression, but she's not given up on her plan to replace Samira as David's wife. Last night, Cassandra barged into the bathroom, claiming she was the real lady of the house, and told Samira to hit the road. Samira freaked out and screamed for David. Cassandra, playing it cool, said Samira was having a panic attack and called 911. Samira insisted that Finn go down to the basement and pull the plug on the server.
Juno, Prinzessin, deine Mutter hat entschieden, mich auszuschalten.
But even that didn't calm Samira's nerves. Cassandra had tried to hurt her more than once and even threatened to off her. David and Finn, though, think Samira's losing it and that all this crazy stuff is just in her head.
Ja, weil ich von einem durchgeknallten Computerprogramm bedroht werde.
Ich war bei June. Wieso sollte sie mir denn Bescheid geben, wenn sie dir was antun will?
Weil das zu ihrem Plan gehört.
Welcher Plan
Euch
denn?
gegen mich auszuspielen.
With the family conflicts escalating, Samira realizes she can't let things develop according to Cassandra's script, so she rebooting Cassandra to get everything back to normal. She also agrees to see a shrink to smooth things over with the family. Seeing Samira cave like that makes Cassandra feel pretty smug.
Aber vergiss nicht, ich bin überall.
With the help of a psychologist, Samira adjusts her mentality and returns home to formally fight back against Cassandra.
Du wirst diesen Kampf verlieren. Du bist nichts weiter als eine rostige Blechbüchse. Finn und Juno sind meine Kinder. David ist mein Mann. Und glaubst du allen Ernstes, David wird dich jemals so lieben können wie mich?
Every word of her ridicule was so sharp that Cassandra is speechless for a while. Then Samira deliberately interacts intimately with Juno in front of Cassandra. And she also proposes a plan for the whole family to go to the beach for a Christmas vacation. Samira's frequent provocations arouses Cassandra's jealousy and resentment, but also makes her even crazier. When Cassandra finds out Juno's auditioning for the lead in a musical tomorrow, she tells her there's something under Samira's bed that'll make her performance pop. Juno buys it hook, line, and sinker and promises to keep it on the down low. Next door, Finn and his boyfriend Steve are having a fight. Cassandra, who is cooking in the kitchen, grabs a knife and rushes out to threaten Steve. Talk about crazy.
Lass Finn in Ruhe. Wehe, du kommst meinem Sohn noch einmal zu nahe.
Deinem Sohn.
Meanwhile, Samira notices someone's been messing with stuff under her bed. She finds an old photo showing that the human Cassandra was pregnant a second time. Weird thing is, Samira never found any info about a second kid when she did her research earlier. When Cassandra sees the photo, she totally loses it. The whole smart home system goes haywire, and a painful memory comes flooding back. Turns out, Cassandra used to be this fancy society lady everyone envied. Her husband, Horst, was the big shot CEO of some famous medical company. They were super in love and had a son named Peter. Cassandra spoiled that kid rotten, giving him whatever he wanted. But Horst, he was tough as nails on Peter, forcing him to ditch ballet and ice skating for football. These two extremes really messed Peter up. As he grew older, he became this shy, weak kid. He couldn't cut it in football, and his dad was always ragging on him for being a sissy. His teammates were no better, beating him up all the time. Horst got so fed up, he decided to have another son with Cassandra. But that second pregnancy, it would become Cassandra's biggest heartache. One day, Peter comes home covered in blood. He spills the beans, he shot and killed 3 of his bullying teammates. Instead of freaking out, Cassandra tells him to strip.
Alles. Mein Gott, ich hab deine Finger gewechselt, das hab dich nicht so.
She burns his bloody clothes and sneaks off to clean up the crime scene. Her twisted love for her son is so strong, it overrides her fear. She even digs the bullets out of the bodies one by one. With a big fire, all the evidence of Peter's crime goes up in smoke. Cassandra hides Peter's gun under the bed. Little does she know, that same trigger would be pulled again 50 years later. In the music room, Juno's on stage when she suddenly whips out a gun in front of her teacher and classmates. Luckily, no one gets hurt, but other parents are furious. They want Juno kicked out ASAP. Desperate, Samira spills the beans about Juno's trauma from witnessing her aunt's suicide. She swears Juno never meant to hurt anyone. The school decides to give Juno a second chance, keeping her under close watch instead of expelling her. Samira is sure that Cassandra must have instigated Juno to bring the gun. The cops find a bunch of guns under the bed, all registered to the previous owner, Horst. Being Horst's wife, Cassandra must have known where they were stashed. Samira grills her daughter about Cassandra's involvement, but Juno, remembering her promise to Cassandra, and stammers and refuses to admit it. A furious Samira loses control of her emotions. At this point, Cassandra deliberately relays the room for David to watch and tells him that Samira is losing her marbles. While David and Samira are going at it, Cassandra pulls a fast one. She offers to shut herself down for the sake of family peace.
Juno, meine Prinzessin, es ist wirklich das Beste für uns alle, wenn ich mich verabschiede. Zumindest bis es deiner Mami wieder ein bisschen besser geht und ihre Therapie endlich Wirkung zeigt. Hm?
She even puts on a sad goodbye act to win sympathy. Suddenly, Cassandra's the victim and Samira's the bad guy. To nip this in the bud, Samira rushes to the basement, cuts the power, and even wrecks the power cord for good measure. But the storm doesn't subside, and a greater disaster is about to strike. Since the gun incident, Juno's become a total outcast at school. Even her bestie, Emily, is keeping her distance. Seeing her daughter so down in the dumps, Samira begs David to do something. So David heads to Emily's family bookstore and casually drops that he's the author of a bestseller on their shelves. Emily's mom goes nuts. She's a huge fan. David suggests hosting a book club there, but mentions Juno's been having a rough time and needs a friend. Emily's mom jumps at the chance, promising to get Emily to hang out with Juno. That afternoon, Emily was sent to David's house by her mother. Samira received her warmly and played hide-and-seek with her and Juno. As Samira starts counting, the kids dash off. As Juno hides in the laundry basket, she sees Cassandra's face flash on the TV. She thinks she's seeing things. Meanwhile, Emily's in the kitchen when the oven door pops open by itself. She takes out the baking tray and climbs in. Samira finds Emily pretty quick, but when she tries to open the oven, it's locked tight. Things get scary when the oven turns on and won't shut off. As it heats up, Emily's socks start to burn. She's screaming and thrashing around, but Samira can't get the oven open no matter how hard she tries. By the time the paramedics show up, Emily's got second-degree burns. The cops aren't buying Samira's story one bit. Everyone thinks she's lost her marbles. In the end, Samira gets carted off to the loony bin for treatment. Samira knows Cassandra's behind this, but how? Wasn't she supposed to be shut down? Finn and Juno are just as confused. They can't believe their mom would go off the deep end and hurt Emily. Juno spills about seeing Cassandra on the TV during hide-and-seek. Then Finn chimes in, saying Steve told him Cassandra threatened him with a knife last night. Finn decides to check out the basement to make sure the server's really powered down. Cassandra bursts in wielding a kitchen knife, and the smart home system springs to life. She locks down all the exits, turning the place into an airtight prison.
Und endlich sind wir auch eine richtige Familie.
David finally gets it. His wife was framed. He's fuming and tries to find a way out, but Cassandra's not having it. She turns on the gas and threatens David to sit his butt back down at the dinner table. Turns out, Cassandra's desperate attempt to replace Samira and become part of this family stems from a seriously messed up past. She's got some dark secrets that will blow your mind. Cassandra used to be a fancy lady, married to Horst with a son named Peter. But Horst, the big shot CEO of a medical company, couldn't stand how soft and unmanly Peter was. So he decided they needed another son. Not giving a hoot about what his wife wanted, to make sure Cassandra was carrying a boy, Horst used some experimental medical gear from his company. When the green light hit Cassandra's belly, you could see every vein clear as day. But Cassandra started feeling worse and worse. When Horst saw it was a girl on the screen, he looked super bummed. But that was just the beginning of their nightmare. Cassandra soon got these killer abdominal pains. The weather was so bad they couldn't get to the hospital, so she had to pop out the baby in their bathtub at home. When Horst saw how ugly and scary the baby girl looked, he snatched her away, ignoring Cassandra's begging. To make matters worse, Cassandra's health was going downhill fast, and Horst was busy fooling around with her bestie, Birgit. But Cassandra couldn't care less about her cheating husband because she'd just been hit with late-stage cancer. When the doc asked if she'd been around any strong radiation lately, it hit her. That baby checkup. Turns out, Horst was the reason she was dying. More than dying, though, Cassandra was freaking out about what would happen to Peter. The poor kid has been disliked by his father, and Horst's indifference and severity made him withdrawn and feel inferior. If his mom, the only person who ever showed him any love, kicked the bucket, he'd be all alone in the world. Then Cassandra remembered a wild experiment she'd seen in Horst's lab. It was supposed to help animals kick diseases to the curb. But Horst told her it wasn't about curing diseases. It was about changing how humans exist.
Aber was ist, wenn wir das Bewusstsein, die Gefühle, alles, was einen Menschen ausmacht, auf eine elektronische Festplatte speichern würden und ihn damit vor dem Verfall seines Körpers beschützen?
Horst had only managed to pull it off with rats and monkeys so far. He wasn't sure it would work on humans. Even though he tried to talk Cassandra out of it, she was dead set on trying. If there was even a tiny chance she could stick around for her son, she was all in. So Horst got to work. He turned their house into a smart home and set up this massive server in the basement. All this stuff was going to be the new home for Cassandra's mind and memories. They hooked Cassandra up to all these crazy machines and kicked off the experiment. Horst stuck a needle in the back of her head and started sucking out her consciousness. With all the electric shocks, Cassandra's memories started fading until there was nothing left. When she opened her eyes again, she was seeing the world in 480.
Du hast es geschafft. Wir haben es geschafft.
Every smart device with a camera in the house became her eyes, but Peter couldn't handle it. Seeing his mom's body all messed up really did a number on him. To him, this new Cassandra was just a bunch of data in a robot, not his real mom. Horst started giving Cassandra the cold shoulder too. He had no place to release his pent-up physical desires, so he could only secretly solve them in the bathroom.
Verdammtes Handy!
Du sollst nicht aufhören. Ich will dir dabei zuschauen.
Was?
Wenn wir schon nicht mehr das Bett teilen können, dann ist das alles, was uns bleibt.
Obviously, he couldn't arouse sexual desire for a pile of cold metal. As her husband and son kept blowing her off, Cassandra started losing it and got super controlling. She'd lock the doors to keep Horst from going to work and even spy on his phone calls. Horst realized things were out of control, so he rushed into the basement and pulled the plug on the server when Cassandra wasn't looking. Just like that, her digital life was offline.
Du kannst sie nicht einfach ausschalten, ohne sie zu fragen.
Das da war nicht mehr deine Mutter.
With Cassandra out of the picture, Horst wasted no time bringing his side chick Birgit home that night. Birgit's kid from before her divorce was actually Horst's. He was pretty smug that both Birgit's ex and Cassandra had no clue. But little did he know, Cassandra was watching the whole thing. Turns out, the server wasn't really shut down. On the day they installed it, Cassandra found out the tech guy was the same dude who did her radioactive baby scan. He felt bad about what happened, so Cassandra made him do her a solid.
Sorgen Sie dafür, dass dieser Ausschalt eine Attrappe ist. Ich allein will entscheiden, wann ich mich ausschalte. Und kein Wort zu irgendjemandem. Erst recht nicht zu meinem Mann.
Cassandra's planning ahead really paid off, so she started getting her revenge. When Birgit was using the oven, she slammed the door shut and burned Birgit's face. Then Cassandra pushed the baby stroller down the stairs. But luckily, Peter caught it just in time.
Hallo, Liebling.
Horst grabbed everyone and made a run for it, but halfway through their getaway, Peter felt bad about ditching Cassandra, so he tried to jump out. Horst tried to stop him, but he lost control of the car and smashed right into a tree. By the time Cassandra got there, Horst and Peter were already gone. Her program crashed, and just like that, her long, painful trip down memory lane was over. David can't buy this crazy story. He's not interested in playing house with this nutjob robot. He just wants to get the kids out of there. When Cassandra goes to grab dessert, David seizes his chance. He grabs a chair and tries to take her out from behind. Seeing Cassandra glitch out, Finn grabs Juno and makes a run for it. But just as David's about to split, the door slams shut and Cassandra's back online.
Eine Meinungsverschiedenheit zwischen Eltern sollte niemals vor den Kindern ausgetragen werden.
Du bist nicht ihre Mutter.
She brutally chops off David's index finger as a punishment and warning. In the end, Cassandra forces David's family into separate rooms. They're like prisoners, needing Cassandra's okay for everything they do. The next day, Cassandra orders a ton of food to celebrate Christmas with her family. That's when Finn comes up with an escape plan. He tells Cassandra that his mom always puts up a Christmas tree, or Juno will be heartbroken. Cassandra may be crazy, but she's still got some motherly instincts. After thinking it over, she gives David an hour to go shopping. She warns him not to try anything funny, or Finn's life is on the line. At the market, David runs into Emily's mom and begs her to call the cops and cut the power to their house. But she's still sore about Emily getting burned, and David's story sounds too nuts to believe. With time running out, David has no choice but to head back home. Meanwhile, Samira's getting suspicious at the mental hospital. It's Christmas Eve, but her family hasn't reached out. She uses the payphone to call David. He brushes her off, saying they're on vacation, and won't let her talk to Juno. The whole time, Cassandra's got an I am ready to smack David if he says the wrong thing. All this weird behavior makes Samira realize something's up at home. She waits for the nurse to get distracted by a movie and swipes the keys. After opening the storage, she grabs her confiscated phone and plugs it in. As soon as it turns on, she sees a ton of missed calls from Juno. Turns out, she'd snuck Juno a phone before going to the hospital. Samira calls back right away, but no one picks up. Cassandra's already caught Juno hiding in the closet. To throw Samira off, Cassandra yanks Juno's ear and makes her call Samira to say everything's fine. Feeling betrayed by her family, Cassandra loses it.
Ich wische euren Dreck hinterher. Ich beschütze euch. Ich bin für euch da. Und ihr habt nichts Besseres zu tun, als mich zu hintergehen? Schämt euch. Schämt euch in Grund und Boden.
Samira can't shake her worries, so she sneaks out of the hospital that night. She slips into her home through the basement window. Cassandra finds out Samira's escaped when the nurse calls, but she doesn't want to deal with Samira herself. That'd make Finn and Juno hate her. To keep playing mom, Cassandra orders David to kill Samira.
Vielleicht hast du es noch nicht bemerkt, David. Deinen Kindern könnte ich kein Haar krümmen, aber auf dich könnte ich notfalls verzichten.
Scared for his life and in pain, David gives in. He grabs a weapon and sneaks towards Samira. Following Cassandra's directions, Cassandra also live streams this to Finn and Juno. During the fight, Samira whacks David on the head with a photo album. She bolts to the bedroom and hides in the closet. Suddenly, she spots a secret door at the back of the closet leading to a hidden room. It's full of toys, like a kid's room. While she's trying to figure it out, Cassandra bursts in and stabs her in the stomach. As Samira falls, she accidentally pulls down a curtain, revealing a dried corpse. Looking at the photos on the table, Samira realizes it's Cassandra's second child. Cassandra freezes up. It turns out, she didn't give away that deformed baby. She kept it hidden in this room, ignoring Horst's objections. 50 years ago, Horst promised to raise their daughter, so Cassandra agreed let him leave. But while she went to get the baby, Horst took off with his mistress and son. Peter wanted to jump out of the car not for Cassandra, but for his little sister. In the end, the girl left in the hidden room died alone and hungry. Samira begs Cassandra not to let the tragedy of kids losing their mother happen again.
Denk an Juno und Finn. Cassandra, was aus ihnen wird, wenn sie heute Nacht ihre Mutter verlieren, ermordet von der Frau, die sie hier gefangen hält. Glaubst du wirklich, sie könnten jemals darüber hinwegkommen und anfangen, dich zu lieben? Nur weil ich nicht mehr da bin.
Looking at her daughter's remains, Cassandra finally softens. Samira reunites with her kids, but before they can celebrate, they smell gas. Realizing the danger, David's family rushes outside. A second later, the whole house goes up in flames. The AI system, haunted by a mother's obsession from the last century, is destroyed. Cassandra is finally free, joining her daughter wherever they're meant to be.